Is remote work going to last? In January of 2020, by all ridiculous coincidences in life, I actually read this book, Remote. And in this book, it basically says, this is the TLDR. You should go read it if you're interested, because it's kind of crazy to think, wow,
remote work used to be so shunned upon
before the pandemic. And then in the pandemic, everyone kind of hopped in on it. But in this book, it basically says, look, if you have a company and it's building on the internet and you don't have at least 90% plus of your workforce online or working remotely, then you're probably losing money compared to your competitors. Which, if you're ever losing money compared to your competitors and you kind of know that you're doing this over a long enough period of time, you're basically not going to be able to be competitive and you're going to die out. You're a dinosaur. And now we're finding a time where companies are saying, hey, let's go back to the office. If you look at this article, Zoom is sending people back. Zoom, the same company that really allowed people to remote work. When the pandemic happened, for everyone that remembers, I think it was March 15, 2020, seemingly overnight, Zoom stock shot up because everyone was then having to use it to be able to video conference because they were then stuck in different places, even around, for example, New York City. Somebody was in Queens, somebody was in Brooklyn, somebody was in Manhattan, somebody was in the Bronx, but they were all part of a team which would normally be going to Alphabet City in Manhattan to work. But all of a sudden, Zoom became the office, and that became the connectivity through which people needed. And I just think it's very interesting that we've kind of forgot that we can work remotely, and now we're forcing people to go back into the office. Because I think over a long enough period of time, and we're already seeing this now, commercial real estate is dying because people realize they can have more or less the same productivity by having a decentralized workforce, I guess you could say. So I just kind of want to make this video super quickly to say it's ironic that we've already forgot so quickly that working from home and remote working and having a telecommunicating team or whatever you want to call it did work. It worked when it had to work. So if it worked when it had to work, I don't understand why it can work when it doesn't need to work, if that makes sense. So this is just a shout out to remote work and all of the companies that I've worked for and all of the companies that many of my friends work for. They are using remote work. But like I said, there's that 90% of maybe remote work, but some companies, depending upon what they're doing, may still need to have 10% of their people at an office in an HQ to actually be able to touch physical products or administer services that maybe need to be done on site. So this is just a shout out to that. Part of what I want to do with this channel is to talk about the future of work, and I don't think you can talk about the future of work without talking about remote work and how that's going to look. My case is that over the next 5 to 10 years, the biggest companies, the most competitive companies, the Fortune 500 companies, the trillion-dollar companies are going to have to push people more towards remote work to honestly just cut down costs, cut down overhead, not having to have security at the office, not having to have an office, not having to worry about the plumbing when that doesn't work, et cetera, et cetera. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think remote work is staying? Do you think it's working? Are you a remote worker? Would you like to be a remote worker if you're not? The other thing that I didn't mention in this video, but I think is worth mentioning, is hybrid seems to be the way that people are going to go. So if you work in an office, you're going to have a 2-3 split. Maybe you go in 2 times a day and you're at home 3 times a day. Or maybe you go in 3 times a day, a 3-2 split, and then you're at home twice a day. I didn't mention that, but let me know in the comments what you think. As always, please subscribe, follow us on social media at More Than Blockchain, and I'll see you next time.